This is a recreation of 99,942 Apophis, the asteroid that has reached the highest level on the Turin scale, a method for classifying the impact hazard associated with celestial objects like comets or asteroids. If Apophis were to impact our planet, it would release energy equivalent to about 1,200 megatons of TNT. To put it in perspective, you should know that the total nuclear arsenal of all the countries on Earth adds up to about 1,400 megatons of TNT. You've probably seen one of those videos showing the domino effect that would be triggered if a country decided to launch the first nuclear bomb. Well, if Apophis hits in 2029, it would be like releasing almost all of that energy in a single spot, except without the radiation damage. I think you can imagine the apocalyptic event we would be witnessing.
It's estimated that the
probability of
that an asteroid about the same size as Apophis
passes so
close to Earth. It's once every 800 years, and for it to impact the planet is about once every 80,000 years. So honestly, we've been really unlucky to be born right at this moment in history when it comes to meteorite impacts.
One of the problems we have when it comes to determining the risk posed by Apophis is the lack of information, since we haven't been able to study it up close. Not even the size is clear. Some studies suggest a diameter of 450 meters, while others say 350. This is roughly how it would look compared to the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building approximately. Its composition and mass aren't clear either, although it's suspected to be an ordinary LL-type chondrite, which means that instead of being the typical metallic asteroid rich in iron, most of its iron is actually oxidized. It's the rarest type of ordinary chondrite. Also, it's quite strange. It's suspected to be a contact binary with rotations
chaotic and
retrograde. In other words, all this means that it was probably formed by the collision of two minor bodies like the famous comet 67P, and that it doesn't have a fixed axis of rotation. It keeps spinning and its direction is opposite to what's most common in the solar system. This is the predicted impact probability zone for its 2029 impact. The damage it would cause would depend a lot on whether it falls on land or water. It's worse if it falls on land, and as you can see, unfortunately the line seems to be drawn with bad intentions to go through all of Europe and the lower arc of Asia, ending up skimming Japan, so if it were to fall, it would probably land on solid ground. In the most optimistic estimates, that is, assuming a small diameter of 270 meters and low density, Apophis would produce a crater 5.1 kilometers in diameter, 5 times the size of the Berenger crater, the huge famous crater in Arizona, United States. That's no small thing.
But will it hit or not? When Apophis was discovered, the great uncertainty in the data gave it a 2.7% chance of impacting Earth on Friday, April 13, 2029. It was at that moment when it broke the record on the Turin scale. However, over the years, its trajectory could be refined further. And now we know with absolute certainty that there will be no impact in 2029 later on. Little things could happen. We'll talk about this in a moment, because the fact that it won't impact in 2029 doesn't mean it won't pass extremely close, and this has serious implications.
It will pass about 31,000 kilometers above the surface, to be exact, with an uncertainty interval of plus or minus 3 kilometers, so the probability of it impacting that year is 0. This distance, however, is nothing in astronomical terms. The Moon, for example, is on average 384,000 kilometers away. Its trajectory, in fact, will pass inside the ring of geostationary satellites that orbit our planet, just to give you an idea of how absurdly close it will pass. And in fact, let's hope it doesn't hit any of them or cause a destructive chain reaction. Apophis will be the largest asteroid, or larger, to have passed this close in all recorded history. This will allow it to reach a brightness magnitude of 3.1, which means it will be visible to the naked eye from dark rural and suburban areas. If you live in the city, you'll be able to see it with binoculars. Yes, you'll be able to see an asteroid with your naked eye, but what will happen after 2029?
Well, to answer this question, we need to look at its name. The fact that it's called Apophis is no coincidence. Apophis is an Egyptian god, the uncreator, an evil serpent that dwells in eternal darkness and lurks every night. Very fitting. And what comes next I find very interesting. You should know that asteroids that pass near Earth are divided into 4 types.
The Amor, the Apollo, the Aten, and the Atira. The type depends on the orbital characteristics, and the most dangerous ones are the Apollo and the A10 because they are the ones that cross our planet's orbit.
A10 is the type to which Apophis, the evil serpent, belongs. But this won't be the case forever because when it approaches Earth in 2029, the gravity of our planet will turn it into an Apollo-type asteroid, the Greek and Roman god of salvation, as if Apollo were taking the reins and saving us from the evil Egyptian serpent. A very nice coincidence of names.
And this is very important because the key to what will happen in the future lies in that moment when the evil serpent is handed over to the Greek gods. You should know that there is a concept called gravitational keyhole, a tiny region of space near a planet where the planet's gravity would alter the orbit of an asteroid passing through it in such a way that the body would collide with that planet in a future orbital pass.
Because yes, when an asteroid, comet or spacecraft gets very close to a planet, the gravitational pull it exerts can greatly alter its trajectory. It's the system that the Voyager spacecraft, for example, used with the gas giants to propel themselves into interstellar space without having to use fuel.
Even though it won't collide with Earth in 2029, Apophis's trajectory will be greatly altered by Earth's gravity. There are many possible trajectories, and one of them is the one that passes through the gravitational keyhole. Apophis's gravitational keyhole in 2029 will be about 1 kilometer in diameter. If Apophis were to cross it in 2036, it would return to Earth, but this time to impact.
However, 1 kilometer is a ridiculous distance on astronomical scales. And while it's true that its current trajectory makes it pass very close to grazing the keyhole, it's still just almost. Even taking into account the margins of uncertainty,
Probability.
it's 0, so no, this century Apophis is not going to hit the Earth unless someone moves it. But there is a possibility that it could end up doing so in the next centuries or millennia, so sooner or later, one of our descendants will have to go pay it a visit to divert it so we can be at ease. Although maybe we should be more worried.
About other bodies. Apophis became famous because, when it was discovered, the limitations in detection technology created so much uncertainty around it that it unfairly racked up a lot of risk points. And people stuck with that, even when improved odds took catastrophe off the table. I'll tell you more. Nowadays, there are 6 asteroids more dangerous than Apophis. The most dangerous of all is 1950 DA. You probably haven't even heard of it. It's 1.3 kilometers in diameter. That's 4 times the size of Apophis. If it hit, it would be the end of civilization as we know it. You should know that it has a 1 in 2,600 chance of hitting Earth in the year 2880. So, at least until a greater danger is discovered or a cure for aging is found, you can sleep peacefully. Thank you very much for watching the video and goodbye.